following program is an encore presentation.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein.
Quite a good scene, isn't it?
Well, hello!
Oh. I thought I was alone. Good evening.
Well, we've warned you.
It's just going. It's just going.
All right, good, perfect. All right, so
What are we looking at?
all right, we're here. It's a bonus episode. We just roll right into it.
No need
This
to
is
warn
it.
anybody.
No, nothing to warn anybody about. Welcome to our bonus episode. I'm sure you've already seen the name of it. It's weird when people announce something that you've already downloaded. You can see what it's
See
called.
what it's called. Yeah.
It's, I don't even know what it's called. What did we decide? We'll see what we decided to call it. But the big presentation has been made.
Yep, that was fantastic.
We have Boris Karloff's guacamole recipe. I haven't even tried it.
Okay,
Let's try it.
good.
Wow.
This is to the letter based on Karloff.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta confess, I had almost nothing to do with it. Because I forgot. I was gonna make this, and then I forgot. And like 2 hours ago, I went upstairs and I'm like, oh shit. I forgot we were gonna make guacamole, so she went to the store.
Did you really? Well, God bless Jackie. That's yeah, this is good.
Not bad. Way to go, Boris.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have the recipe, I guess I'll put it on Patreon. But I mean, it's on Twitter.
It's
You've
all
seen it a bunch of
all
times.
over the place. Yeah.
Everybody's seen Boris Karloff's guacamole recipe. It's got tomatoes and obviously avocado. And sherry. I'm trying to remember. There's something weird about it. I guess it's the sherry. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it.
I think so, but it's funny because it's an article from the 50s.
Is it? Okay.
And it's like it's this exotic foreign thing.
Right.
This guacamole, it's based on avocado, and the way it explains it, it's like no one's ever heard of this. And now it's so commonplace that.
Well, I don't know where we are in history with the avocado, because it is a punchline to say that you eat avocado now.
Is it?
Yeah, if you say avocado toast or avocado on toast, maybe, it means you're a boomer. It means something.
Oh, is that
it
right?
means something demeaning. So the
see,
modern people,
because
your kids think avocado is
passé,
something to sneer at.
Really?
I guess.
But they're
Fucking great.
They're tasty. They're good for you.
Yeah, they're you can't do much better than that avocado, really.
What is the problem? I don't get it. Yeah, fucking millennials.
So it just occurred to me. I'm not particularly, what's the word?
I don't know.
Forgiving of listening to people crunching chips. And I volunteered to edit this episode.
Yeah, good for you.
Yep. I'm just gonna fucking just eat chips through
Chips
the
through
whole thing.
Well, what we're here for, I suppose we should say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had a moment because my notes are in a very specific order, and they weren't in the right order, and I thought I had no notes.
Oh, okay.
But I got them.
No, you got them? All right. I really didn't make notes.
I don't really have much notes, yeah.
No,
it's more freeform.
Yeah. What we're going to do is discuss the 4 films that Boris Karloff shot at the end of his life.
Yeah.
His scenes were shot. These were supposed to be made in Mexico. Somewhere I do have some notes. I downloaded these from the internet.
Let me back up even further.
Yeah, okay.
Because we didn't talk about this. This episode will come out in like 7 days, so we didn't talk about it. But it's in honor of Boris Karloff's first appearance in this film. So people will remember
in Son of
Boris
Frankenstein,
Karloff's Boris Karloff's first appearance in the first film that we talked about, called Frankenstein.
Yeah, that one.
We did a bonus episode about our favorite Boris Karloff films. And the way you proposed it, I believe, was let's talk about our top 10 Boris Karloff films and our bottom 10 Boris Karloff films.
Right.
And people who've heard it will know, just talking about our top 10, we split it into 3 parts.
3 hours
we had plenty
long.
to say.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this is neat. We got Boris Karloff coming back, and it's another half hour, 6 months without Boris Karloff. So he's coming back. Let's do another one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's finally do that bottom 10.
Right.
And we quickly revised it to a bottom 5 because we're lazy. There's really no other
Yeah, it
reason.
really wasn't no.
And busy. You mean you just moved. And then not long after that, I proposed that we don't call it that.
Yeah, well, and I think we both came to the same conclusion around the same time, researching it. It was difficult to I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it sounded negative, first of all, to say the bottom 5. And it was difficult because the 4 films we're going to talk about are invariably going to be in that bottom 5, and then I'm going to find one more. So
yeah, everybody's 5th is different.
Yeah.
But even I got to be honest. As we talk about this will become even more clear. I don't even know if that's true.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of it isn't to say that these are bad.
No.
They're certainly not. There's a reason they're not. They weren't discussed in that top 10.
Right.
But I like all these movies to varying degrees.
Yeah, I liked all but one.
Okay, and I don't think that'll be. I agree, but I don't even think it's the same one. I liked 3 of them, and one I really didn't, and I don't think it's the same one.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't really talked about this. We haven't really discussed the format, but these movies did come out. They were released in a specific order.
Not necessarily during Boris's lifetime.
Yeah, none of them were, right?
None of them, no.
Okay. Well, did you have more about that? Because it's interesting, right? He got paid. I saw somewhere he got paid $400,000.
Got $100,000 a piece.
That just sounds insane. That's great money. No wonder he did this.
Yeah. He didn't have to. I mean, he was
about to die.
He was literally 8 months away from passing away.
Wow.
On oxygen, he had, I think, a half a lung.
Wow. Smoker. You got to assume this is a smoker thing.
I defy you to find a behind-the-scenes still from any of the Frankenstein films where he doesn't have a ciggy in his hand.
Yeah. They even had the monster smoke at one point.
That's right.
He just couldn't.
He couldn't. I can't. Listen, Jimmy, I can't go that long without.
Can he smoke, please? Yeah.
Shot over 5 weeks in Hollywood.
Can I ask what that is?
It's just.
Because I looked and I couldn't find anything.
It was the only thing I could really find, and it basically, apart from some minor information.
Well, that's good. Oh, I think maybe I did see that. Okay.
It really didn't. There's so little information about these films out there that even like the films of Boris Karloff, which came out in the early 70s.
Yeah.
2 of them haven't been released, and the author's like, I don't know if they ever will be.
Wow.
Because the producer had died in the interim, so there was some issues with the last 2 being released. But
I didn't even know that.
These were supposed to be made in Mexico, partnership between Columbia Pictures and Azteca Films in Mexico.
Right.
Stories vary that it was either Karloff's doctor, his wife, his daughter, or himself said, he cannot be in that climate. He's on oxygen. He's in a wheelchair. This can't happen that way. So, his scenes were shot in Hollywood over a 5-week period by director Jack Hill.
Which, to our Minnesotan sensibilities, clearly a different climate than Mexico. Seems like it's the same. It seems like they live fucking right next door.
I think it's the altitude.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the altitude.
Okay. I don't know that either.
So
but I'll take your word for it.
brought the actors from Mexico that were going to be in the scenes with him, and a lot of them repeat from film to film, so that made it easier.
Yep.
Not all of them, but some.
Yep.
Recreated did the sets because his stuff was shot first, and then they recreated some of the sets later in Mexico to shoot the rest of them. They were completed in Mexico then shortly thereafter. It's not as ramshackle as it sounds.
I mean, I was
because
wondering
the
if we talk
continuity
about this now or if we talk about it when we go movie by movie. But yes, when you hear that, you expect it to
to be just this disastrous, sub Ed Wood.
A guy, a camera facing a guy, and then a camera facing
another guy. I had always pictured them, and I read about these all my life and only seen them within the past 6 months.
Yeah.
I pictured Boris up against the wall, basically talking to nobody. But no, that's not the case. He definitely interacts with the other characters.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know that that's how the films were made, you probably wouldn't discern that from just simply seeing them.
I think that's exactly right. That was a surprising part.
Yeah, to the film's
except
credit.
for a couple of moments that are fucking amazingly horrible and awful.
Yeah.
Like, so they got, you can do a Boris Karloff, right? And they were asking a guy who could not do Boris Karloff to do the voice.
My impression of it is they never even heard Boris Karloff.
I don't know who that is.
Let alone,
I'll just do a voice.
Yeah, just do something creepy and it'll be fine. No one will notice.
Do horror voice.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, and the thing is that they did not get a real U.S. release until much later.
Like last week.
Yeah, basically.
I had to find...
they went to television before they played in any kind of a theater, if they played in the theater at all here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of wondering, is did they even... But they have release dates, so I guess I assume that means theatrical release.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
amazing
again, these
how
are so
little
hard
information there is
These are
about
so hard to track down.
Yeah, this makes me think... Sadly, this might be the definitive document of this point in history.
And we're
eating fucking chips.
We don't know
what's going on. Somebody should write a book about this because it's a perfect topic for
fascinating.
For what's that? McFarlane
or Bear Manor or something.
Bear
like
Manor,
that.
Right. Because
we're talking to you, Tom Weaver.
Yeah, who's a Patreon,
evidently.
Because, like I said, I don't really think these movies are bad. They are. There's a lot of skill that's put into these films, and you'll be watching it. Again, I don't know if I should babble before we talk about each individual film.
No, I think it's an overview.
You'll be watching it, and then all of a sudden something fucking stupid and horrible will happen, and you go, "Oh, that's right, this movie's bad." Because you were kind of absorbed by the actual movie.
I'd have to say, like I said, all but one. Yeah, we're actually.
Well, this is going to be good. We'll see if maybe it is the same one. I don't think it is, but maybe we'll see.
No, I think the planning that had to go into making this work as well as it does.
Amazing. Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that the scripts were written in English. Because Jack Hill is listed as one of the writers as well as director. And he doesn't always get credit as a director. But it's fairly well documented that he directed Karloff's scenes here in the U.S.
He's still alive.
Yeah. He
directed Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
Switchblade Sisters.
Spider Baby.
I don't know.
Yeah.
See, we don't have notes. I'm actually going off the top of my head. Yeah, there's like another one that you've heard of, He's
considered a cult director.
I saw somewhere they say he discovered Pam Grier, which is pretty good.
I've heard that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That alone deserves kudos.
Yeah. Yeah. Quentin Tarantino is probably a big fan.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
the
he's
other
not
thing is when you heard that too before seeing the movies, it's like, well, directed. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah.
He probably, like you said, Boris Karloff's clearly standing against a wall, and he pointed a camera at him, and he got paid $60.
That's not the case.
But no,
at all.
He's in scenes and does stuff.
Interacts with the other characters. So these scripts were written, had to be translated one way or the other. I'm not sure from English to Spanish or vice versa.
Yeah.
But then they had to plan out, okay, what scenes are we shooting here? Yeah. What scenes are being shot in Mexico? How do we coordinate this? Two different directors. I don't think Jack Hill then, once the Karloff scenes wrapped, had anything more to do with it.
That I
don't believe he oversaw any of the editing or any of that.
Right.
I mean, he was done by the cut. That's a wrap.
Yeah. And then the footage was presumably taken to Mexico where it was Juan Ibanez. Do we have any idea how to say it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Directed everything else. All four.
All four.
And then did nothing else. Like, that's his IMDb.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
This whole
to me.
thing is such a strange story.
These aren't Mystery Science Theater movies. Well, they're about that.
They're about that level.
But they're competent. They're not Coleman Francis movies. They're not even Ed Wood movies. Maybe they approach Ed Wood territory, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, I was absolutely surprised at how well they hold together.
Yeah. Yep.
I did not expect that at all.
Yeah.
I expected it to be just an absolute mess, and that was what I've been led to believe.
Yeah. That's great that we had that same. We haven't talked about this.
Yeah, no, we tried not to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because totally unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, I was led to believe all my life, reading in all these books and stuff, that this was an absolute disaster. These films were terrible.
Yep.
There was a reason they didn't get released here.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And I found them to be very watchable. Now, I didn't have the time to sit and devote to watch them as much as I would have liked to, so I have to admit that I watched them at 1.5 times speed just to be able to fit it into my schedule.
I did. I agree. I did that too. You said it, and then I'm like, oh, fucking thank you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it couldn't have happened.
Yeah, I would have never been able to fit it in. But
and I feel the same way. I didn't devote as much time as I would have liked to. I didn't realize that they were going to be
as good as
interesting.
Yeah.
And that I might want to actually study them more.
Well, my friend Chris and I had watched Isle of the Snake People.
Okay.
Last year, I would say midsummer of 2021. Just because I had found a cheap DVD of it at like Half Price Books or something for $2. Like, oh, this is one of those. I'm curious to take a look at this.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the better ones.
Okay.
And I was really stunned at the quality that it.
Yeah.
Like, he's really acting with the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
Was my main thing.
I think I think it is important to at least say, when we say these are pretty good or competent or good movies, they're bad horror movies of that era of the late 60s.
Yeah.
And they have all that sort of stuff that you kind of come to expect from horror movies from that
low
era.
Budget.
They're low budget. The sound is often terrible. The music is pretty good, really.
I'm sure that was all library stuff.
Yeah, probably true. Good point.
I don't think there was a composer. And
every movie has parts where you're going, wait, what? What's going on? I don't know what the fuck's going on in this movie.
What is happening here?
And the copies I've seen look so bad that very often I could simply not tell you what's happening.
Yeah. There was.
So there's that. If you're into that, don't go into this thinking you're going to see Bride of Frankenstein on 4K Blu-ray.
Absolutely not.
The copies that I found on YouTube, one of the movies, the sound cut out halfway through, and I had to find another copy.
One of them was the print was backward, was flipped left to right.
Yes, which is fun.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if the whole print, it must be, right?
Oh,
the whole
absolutely.
print's probably backwards.
Because in the middle there's an intertitle, and that was backwards as well.
In the middle there's an intertitle that's backwards?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I might have fallen asleep during that one. So,
well, that's easy.
These aren't cinema classics, folks. But
this isn't Targets we're talking about.
There's a website called Rare Lust. I'm not sure exactly why it's called that, but it sounds like it's going to be porn.
Yeah.
It's, Rare Lust, RARELUST. And that's where I found 2 of the movies. One of them, like I said, the sound cut out halfway through on the copy I found on YouTube. The other one was in Spanish, so I had to go to Rare Lust to get English copies of both of those. And what was great is, you go to a website like that. I just heard about it last year from one of our listeners. Robert told me about Rare Lust, and I was like, that's interesting. And I completely forgot about it. And it's like, there's a website that's basically about this. It's just full of these obscure fucking shitty movies, and I completely forgot about it.
That must be where I found one. Then I Googled to try to find one.
Okay.
When we first started to broach the subject, and I found
you have to register and get an account and everything in order to download it, but it's free, yeah. On that website, I can't even remember which film it was now, though, but they had one that I needed that I didn't have anywhere else, and I downloaded it, and then there's a bunch of comments underneath. Is this the edited version? Oh, yes, this is 3 minutes shorter than... I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who is, why isn't there a book about these movies? People clearly give a shit, and the people that made it gave a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is they were made with a certain amount of skill and craft that I was not expecting.
I don't know if I would have gone skill or craft, but I would have definitely care.
There's
Oh, I take it back. There is skill in
you do this and see how well it turns out.
Yeah,
is
right.
my
Good
thing,
point.
because my expectations, and I know they were low,
Yeah.
but I was really surprised, and not again. These aren't targets or even corridors of, or what is that? Cauldron of Blood.
It's pretty close to Cauldron of Blood, in my opinion.
No, I thought these
Cauldron of Blood is a step above?
just slightly.
Okay.
They're a little more cohesive, but these are not nearly the disasters I was expecting, and I don't know if I was disappointed by that or pleasantly
I guess
surprised.
in
I think it was
some
a little
sense
of
I was
both.
disappointed. Like I said, I think we both said I wish I would have spent more time with them.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to be worth it.
No, I didn't either. And
We could do a minute by minute. I don't know if we're gonna go that far.
yeah, I'm out of here.
Minuto y minuto. I don't know. So
Yeah. My attempts to speak foreign languages on here have been met with
much
much
derision.
derided. Yeah.
So
Do you want to just go film the film then? Or
film the film? Oh, film by film.
Film by film.
I was gonna go film by film if you want.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And so I assume we'll go in release order, and
Yes.
this is where I find out I've probably got them in the wrong order. Do you know the order?
Vaguely.
Okay. Is it House of Evil?
Yeah, I
All right.
believe that's first. Hang
House
on
of
a
Evil.
second. I know I have it here actually in the.
Serenata Macabre. Mm-hmm. You've got fair amount of notes.
No, these are the Karloff notes from the episode,
okay.
this week's episode.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it just happens that they are listed here. So yeah, House of Evil is the first one.
What is Serenata? That seems like it would be a song. Song of the Dead.
Song of the Dead.
I don't know. House of Evil. Starring Boris Karloff as Matthias Morteval.
Morteval.
And Lucy Durant is played by someone named Julissa? How would you say
Hulissa,
that?
I would think.
Yeah.
Hulissa.
Is she in all of these?
She's in 3.
She's in 3. Okay, we'll get there then. She's
Yeah,
beautiful.
the last one that they filmed, she wasn't available apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, she is. She is very easy on the eyes. Not a
that's-
bad actress because she's slightly different characters in each one.
Yes, and I think.
She's actually still alive and still looks great.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know she was still alive, but I saw a recent picture of her. Yeah. Well, she was. What would she be? 60, 70, I guess.
Something like that. Yeah.
She's that's one of the things that maybe helps with these movies too, is that oftentimes you'll watch a bad movie, and in a bad, or especially a bad horror movie of 50 years ago, and this is, you would see a quote beautiful woman, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
This one has
She's
beautiful woman in this movie,
Yeah.
so she plays a beautiful woman
Yeah.
in these movies.
Yeah.
All right, so it takes place in 1900 at a place called Moorhenge Mansion. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's supposedly based on an Edgar Allan Poe
Oh, is
story. Well, in the credits,
Oh, it says that. That's right.
it
In
says
Spanish.
In Spanish, something about Edgar Allan Poe.
Something about it. Presumably, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure which one or if that's bogus, because 9 times out of 10, a film that's quote based on Edgar Allan Poe has very little to do with it.
I think that's true of authors generally, but
Yeah.
man, specifically Edgar Allan Poe. Maybe just the ones we've seen.
Well,
If Boris Karloff's
Boris
in it,
Karloff's
and
in
it says Edgar Allan Poe.
It's nothing to do with.
It's nothing to do with Edgar Allan
Yeah.
Poe. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the Corman ones are fairly close to.
Okay. I need to watch those.
Yeah, you do.
I haven't watched them.
Yeah, they're good, especially the Raven,
I,
which has nothing to
honestly,
do with the story, but it's
the more I hear about the
entertaining.
Raven, the more I want to watch it.
It's
I really need to watch
very
The Raven.
entertaining.
And it's funny, right?
It's funny.
It's supposed to be pretty funny.
Yeah, and Peter Lorre is ad-libbing like crazy, and
I actually, for this podcast, I thought I'll go find. There's somebody else has already talked about this. Let me go listen to somebody else's podcast just to see what people think of these movies or whatever. I think I was on my way somewhere.
Okay.
I wasn't like going out of my way to do research, but just on
ca-
my way to the store I might as
casually,
well.
yeah.
And all I could find was a podcast where they were talking about. It's the. You must remember this. People will know that podcast if they listen to podcasts. But
yeah, actually, I have.
they did one on Boris and Bela, and that episode, I thought, oh, they'll talk about it. They didn't talk about it. But they did talk about the Raven, and they really kind of sold it to me. Like Corman had no sense of humor,
Yeah.
but he agreed to make this film, and it just sounds really interesting. Like the Raven exceeded expectations.
It did, yeah.
Basically.
It was, and it was shot very quickly, as was everything Corman did.
Yeah, you got a script, then go.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's funny,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, he's made several funny films, and I think they were probably inadvertently made funny. The Little Shop of Horrors is very funny. Bucket of Blood is funny.
Okay, we gotta watch that too.
That's sort of the precursor to The Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay. All right. So Matthias is dying.
Yes.
And he invites his
relatives.
It's a great
It's
trope.
it's the standard, old dark house,
This is an old dark house movie.
And it's very, very dark because the print is
You can't see
almost
it at all.
unwatchable.
And they're gonna they have the actual reading of the will type.
I think that's why this was my least favorite,
Okay.
because I
had a feeling you were gonna say this was your least
really
favorite.
difficult to see.
Yeah. This was one of those ones, and maybe I'll just say this every time, except once, where I would be watching it and go, "This is just fucking bad," and then all of a sudden something good would happen. I felt it the opposite way before, I think, where you'd be watching it and you'll be sucked into it, and then all of a sudden something terrible would happen. But it goes both ways.
It does, yeah.
And in this one, to me, that's how this one felt. I'd be like, "Oh boy,
God,
this
it's
is
a
a
chore."
chore," and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden something fun would happen.
Because Chris and I tried to watch it,
Yes, this is that one.
and we ended up talking through the whole thing and everything but
Yeah.
the film that was on. So
Yeah. Well, that was, yes, it did seem like this episode wasn't going to happen at that point. I was like, okay, well, shit. Can't really talk about it then. But maybe.
But then I rewatched it, and it had its moments.
Boy, my notes on this are terrible. It does say, though, a few minutes of the film are trimmed off in the U.S.
Well, from what I understand, that there was some violence and nudity that was cut from most of them.
Okay.
And I don't know specific incidents.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the plot of this film is that an elderly, dying recluse, it says here, has called his last known relatives to his mansion for a will reading, but with the actual intention of unmasking the carrier of a recently returned murderous family illness.
Yeah, and that's really muddled in the telling of the film.
But when you first hear that, I mean, I think most people would assume what that really is a setup for scenes with women dancing around in their underwear, because that's what that is. That's what that movie's going to be.
Yeah,
yeah, and it doesn't disappoint.
Doesn't disappoint in that regard. No. And but meanwhile, the thing about the people found murdered with their eyes gouged out, is a subplot that I thought would figure more into it than it did.
Yeah, it kind of completely disappears.
It's a really compelling idea that after the first few scenes doesn't resurface till much later in the film.
I couldn't remember if it had even resurfaced. It does, though.
It does. It's good. Mainly just in passing and in reference. It's not...
Because there's a scene where a guy gets shot in the face.
Yeah.
And I thought, is that going to be part of that? No, it's
nope, not at all.
You just got killed by a different way.
Yeah.
Basically, it becomes a thing where people...
It's like
I can see why you picked this as the one you didn't like, because it's dumb. And a lot of dumb things happen. It's not skillful in its execution plot-wise.
No.
It kind of goes off the rails.
And, there's all these things. He collects these toys, sort of these clockwork...
And the toys start killing
people. Start killing people.
And that guy that gets shot in the face... We're going to spoil all the stuff in these movies.
I don't think we're doing anybody a disservice.
Nobody cares that much. But that guy gets shot in the face by a toy.
Toy cannon.
A series of them.
Yeah.
It's a fun little scene, actually, but it seems a little odd where how it goes.
The setup is clumsy.
Yeah. Is there a setup? I don't know.
Barely. And the payoff isn't as much as it should be.
Is there a payoff? I mean, it's really
exactly.
kind of that's where the movie fails. It seems like a series of scenes. A lot of this movie,
yeah,
and that's what a bad movie is.
And I wouldn't say any of them are like a set piece.
Yeah,
they're just scenes.
Yeah, you're right.
There's nothing that really stands out as that was Even like those scenes in that mausoleum was kind of a cool set. And it'll turn up later in another film.
So I didn't watch these in this order, so I was going to mention it later, but yes, I love that set.
The set is really cool.
Yeah.
It makes no sense in the context. But
of this film.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But it looks...
I don't even understand, yeah.
It looks fantastic in this film.
Yes. Well, that's another thing, if we haven't said it already. Lots of things in these movies look fantastic.
Look great,
this guy didn't direct anything after this. He gave up filmmaking because
weird.
he's such a failure.
It's weird.
He made movies with Boris Karloff. I mean, technically.
Well, I mean, you could say that on your CV, sure.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
I think it might have been just the issues with the producer died, and there were the rights.
You said that. I didn't know that.
There were rights struggles.
It even says here that this didn't come out actually in the U.S. until 1978.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can picture how that goes.
And then by then
I made some movies, but
nobody's seen them.
But that was 5 years go by, and you've been done editing, and it still hasn't come out for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. These must have seemed extremely dated when they did come out.
That makes sense.
Because they all came out after Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
And just before Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And those are two tentpole moments in horror.
Yeah.
And also you had like Rosemary's Baby and these more sophisticated looks. So these must have looked really dated, really almost juvenile in the horror aspects of them when they did come out.
Yeah, and this one in particular, the performances aren't great in it. The acting in this movie might be the worst. So another reason you might not like this one. Even
Karloff, he comes off really good in most of these.
Yeah.
He's his usual charming self. He's funny when it's called upon. He's sympathetic when he needs to be. He's evil when, But yeah, in this one, he doesn't register a whole lot.
He dies off screen, and a character walks in and said he died.
Yeah.
That was when I was about ready to give up.
Yeah.
That's 2/3 of the way, halfway in,
it's
something
about halfway,
like that. And I thought, I don't think I can do this anymore.
Yeah, because he disappears from the film for about half its running time.
It does help that he comes back after dying.
Right.
But wait, I shouldn't say it does help. It helps a lot.
It saves the climax of the film.
Yeah.
Except for
it's still not great.
It's not great. The set is cool.
Yeah.
It feels a lot like the end of a Corman Poe film, which I'm sure it drew some inspiration from.
Yeah.
The mechanical thing and the bellows and all that, and none of this is going to make sense to people who haven't seen it, but I'm not going to describe it in
There's a lot of
detail.
mechanical stuff in this film, though. There's it's all about, like we said,
the toys and the
and there's a life-size. There's a guy who's supposed
to be a toy, which is the least
he dances
convincing.
with the lady, and it's supposed to be what do they call him? Like a dancing toy or something like that. And that seems actually kind of cute. And then of course it kills somebody. Nobody's on tenterhooks waiting to see if it's going to kill someone.
It dances her to death. I believe is the
is that what happens?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what happens?
I think so.
Remember. Once Karloff died, I guess.
Yeah. But then in that climax, which is actually well shot, and again, that had to have been done here by Jack Hill.
Yeah. And you say that because Karloff's
in it.
Absolutely every shot with Karloff in it was made in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
By Jack Hill.
Yeah. But it's not Karloff's voice at the very end.
Yeah.
It's that terrible dubbing. Somebody talking like this.
It's closer to Igor than it's just not even.
It's not even close to anything. Yeah, it's just somebody.
So bad.
Hey, can you do a creepy voice? Yeah, I suppose. My children, and it's
really bad.
That'll rip you out of it faster than anything, and it happens in at least one, if not two, of the others.
Yeah, I think we'll come back to this.
Yeah,
but
it happens a lot.
I know it happens in one of the others, and I'm not surprised to hear it happens in two. Yeah. And it's the same voice.
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's
because
weird.
I'm sure all of the post-production was all done at once.
Sure.
Well,
I guess so.
The editing, because all the voices are the same.
It's the same crew. It's the same everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure.
But what's also weird about this to me is that these movies aren't the same. They made 4 distinctly different movies. This movie's a period piece.
Each one has its own either a period setting or geographical setting that is very distinct from the others.
Style of film.
The style,
this is an
even
old
the
Dark
style.
House movie.
Yeah.
The other ones aren't that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Right? Well, we'll get there.
No, I don't.
But yeah, one of these movies is called Alien Invasion. It's not.
yeah.
It's weird that they really. When they called Boris Karloff, they had their shit together.
I think so.
These people had ambitions. They were going to be filmmakers.
I think these are better than their reputations.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And
Watch
I'm
House
gonna
of
keep-
Evil. Tom recommends House of Evil.
You know what? Why?
Serenata Macabre.
Why not? You know, it's what 90 minutes.
Yeah, they're also not long.
Yeah.
This might be the longest one at 90. There's one that's, I think, 70.
70 something.
Or maybe
yeah.
that's this one. I don't know.
They all felt long, but
Yeah.
but you know what? Why not? You know, you can find them for free. Certainly, they're all over the place. We found them for free.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't spend a whole day on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Well, they're mostly on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I think this one was the one that was in Spanish. Or I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it plays better that way, but
that's the other part. I did start. I think it is this one, and I started to watch it. Like, I think this will be okay. There's no subtitles.
yeah, of course.
I
yeah.
mean, do I really need?
you really
I'm
need
not
to-
going to know what's going on anyway.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it wasn't okay. I still needed enough to. Yeah.
What's interesting by comparison.
I also want to hear Boris Karloff speak. That's a big component
I was
of
just
his.
going to say, by comparison, if you watch, say, Black Sabbath,
Okay.
its English version obviously has Karloff's voice.
Yes.
The Italian version, it's edited differently, and I think I prefer the edit there. But you don't get. He introduces each segment. He's sort of the host.
Right.
In both versions, but they shot different footage for each. So he's dubbed, obviously, in the Italian version. You know, it is, again, that sort of. It's not.
Gruff.
Yeah, it's not his voice at all. And.
I love the idea of guys in the 60s going, yeah, I can do Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
He sounds like this.
Yeah.
Does he?
So you lose that. And last
Maybe they're
night-
doing the monster.
Yeah,
Fire good.
Yeah.
Fire bad, actually.
I got
Fire no good.
very bad. Yeah, no good. For Christmas this year, or last year, I guess, I got it's the Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee. It's 6 things that he did in the early 60s in Europe.
Yes,
Primarily
you
Italy.
told me about him. but I don't know
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, and I finally had some time last night because I was all done with this shit.
I guess.
So I watched one, and they were talking, and I watched it with the commentary. And it's actually Donald Sutherland's first film as well.
Wow.
And he plays 2 roles. So they must have really thought highly of him. And he and Christopher Lee, I think, are the only 2 that have their real voices dubbed. Because everybody else, I'm sure, was speaking in Italian or whatever. But the commentators were saying that, you know, you don't often get that prior to this film because Lee wasn't the big star that he became. And oftentimes his voice was dubbed by somebody else when he was willing to do it. They just didn't want to pay or whatever. So he would have it in his contract moving forward. And he could speak like 80 different languages. So he would dub his voice in every version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say like a George Lazenby situation where they dubbed him and they maybe told him about it afterwards. I mean, like,
Yeah.
fuck this.
Or
We
Dave-
don't need you here.
Go. Dave Prowse.
Dave Prowse is a great one.
Yeah. It was
But
absolutely.
that one's fantastic because the footage
Yeah,
surfaced in the not that recent. We've always
We've
had
seen it
probably,
for a
but
long time,
Enough where you just go, yeah, no, no, Dave.
yeah.
They were not going to call you. Not only were they not going to call you, they're going to call somebody whose voice is more Darth Vader than anyone in the history of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Like that guy's got you.
Yeah.
He's got you pegged.
Yep.
You used to be able to get an autograph. You could be able to go to like DaveProwse.com. You could get a picture of Darth Vader autographed by Dave Prowse and James Earl Jones.
Is that
I
right?
think Dave Prowse just died, so it's
Yeah, he
harder to get those.
Yeah.
Not impossible. All right.
Anything more to say about House of Evil?
Not really.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much
No.
about it. You know, there's a cast and there's a plot, and it's not great in this one.
I'm not entirely sure, but there were shots, establishing shots of this house.
Mm-hmm.
And they had caption over it. And that looked to me like it was inserted in the 80s because it looked video. It looked
Yeah.
distinctly different than the rest of the film.
That's really interesting.
It looks like you see something like on the electric company, and it's the spooky house. And
see, this is why there's a lot of little questions like this, and I think that when you talk about, in particular, the titles that look like, what is that called, Amiga or whatever it was, that you could do that stuff?
Yeah.
Later, one of the films, all the titles look like that. Or this one, no, later film, doesn't matter. Some of the films, they look like that, and I don't know what time period that's from. I also, having watched Mystery Science Theater, I'm familiar with the concept where they would re-release a film and just chop the credits off the beginning and end and put their own on. And it always looked like that.
Sandy Frank.
Sandy Frank, exactly. Yeah. What's the big one? Oh, there's lots.
The Gamera ones are all like that.
Yeah, right.
Marooned.
Marooned is the one I was thinking of. But actually, when I think about it, there's fucking the whole, like, season 3 of Mystery Science Theater, all of that, I think. It's just every movie. And they'll play some really, it sounds like someone had a Casio keyboard. And they'll play the Casio
demo
keyboard.
number 6 on the Casio keyboard.
Like, the credits for those movies literally took an hour. They said, we need this to be released in 1 hour. Go.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's terrible. And it's like footage from a different film. Done
and even it'll be in a different film.
Sort of choppy slow motion.
Yes. You're like, what does this have to do with it?
And it's like solarized, so it looks kind of funky. Terrible.
Yeah, this isn't
that bad.
Almost.
Yeah.
Moving on. The next film I have is Fear Chamber.
I think,
Is that what you have as well?
That should be right, yeah.
All right, here's what I have for the plot of this. Well, no, let me do this.
No, you go ahead.
Dr. Carl Mandel is played by Boris Karloff. Is that what you have?
Yep.
Then there's a character named Corinne Mandel, which I've always said Corinne because that's the character's name in Soap. But he says Corinne a million times in this movie. Played by Julissa. Okay. Beneath a volcano, scientists discover a living rock. They take it back to their laboratory and link it to the computers where it communicates with them, promising secrets to life and the universe itself in exchange for one thing. Frequently, it needs to be fed on the fear of young women. Okay, so I'm going to stop reading that.
That's a sound scientific premise.
Well, what it is again, I assume people hear that plot and they hear this is just a setup for having
scantily clad women
dancing around in their underwear. Yeah. And, maybe important to stress at this point, not something that I find displeasurable generally.
No,
it might be exploitative, but it's an enjoyable distraction.
It's still fun to watch. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Get all hoity-toity about it.
I might be ashamed, but
I'm not necessarily proud.
This movie maybe has more of that than any of them.
I think it does. Yeah,
I think that it actually is really a big part of the movie.
This feels like
in fact, there's a scene where she just strips, right?
Yeah. This film felt like almost like it wanted to be like a 60s spy sci-fi. Yeah. It had that look to it. It's in widescreen where the previous one, at least the transfer wasn't.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
This was a much better print, so you could actually see what's going on.
Yeah.
When it was competently shot, which is most of the time. But the shots of the living rock were just sort of, I felt, arbitrarily edited in, so you didn't get a sense of that's what they're talking to. It was a little disjointed in that regard.
So disjointed, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was distractingly so.
Yeah.
A character will be in the room where that rock is, and every time you're like, what? Where are you and what's happening?
Who are you talking to?
Like, it really incompetently done.
That part, yeah.
Yeah, repeatedly.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know what the problem was.
They just didn't have.
It was almost like they just didn't have a thing to film.
I think they didn't have the props.
So they got some Jello or some shit, and they filmed it too close.
Yeah, it's the focus is weird, and
to the point that I didn't know that was the plot of this film. I didn't understand what was going on for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was hard to follow.
It's like, oh, that's right. This is the same movie where they went into the volcano.
Yeah, because that's the pre-credit sequence. Is his daughter and the scientist going down into the volcano and evidently they find this living rock. You don't know that,
right?
until like 2/3 of the way through the movie.
This also was the first one I watched.
Oh,
so
okay.
you're just reminding me now. It was the first one I watched. So remember the bias we both had going in.
These are crap.
These are going to be terrible, and it's just going to be him standing against a wall. This movie starts out for like 15 minutes
with him.
Boris
by
Karloff
himself.
is literally sitting in bed, and a character brings him a phone so he can talk to the other characters.
Yeah.
I thought, oh boy, here we go.
But
and it was still fun though, because first of all, that's fun because I like bad movies, sure. Yeah. But also, it's Boris Karloff, so he's really, he was hamming it up.
He's acting his heart out like he always does. And that's only a small part of the movie. He does interact.
Totally, yeah. Well, he becomes absolutely. And this is one where that voice comes in. I remember it's even better here because they film a. Okay, so there's a reason for him to be in like a hazmat suit in the movie.
Is it this one, or I thought it was the last one, Alien Terror?
Maybe not.
Where that happens.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
And it's in the because
I watched a scene where it's suddenly different.
Yeah, I watched.
It's not him.
I watched them in order of release.
Okay, all right. Well then, but
I know what that is in the last one.
All right.
That's an Alien Terror.
We'll look forward to that next week if we cut this into multiple. I thought this was going to be a 5-minute bonus. Yeah. All right. But okay, so. Yeah, the living rock stuff is terrible.
It's terrible. It's really hard to discern what's going on. When it goes from the credit sequence, or the pre-credit in the volcano, to the credits, to all of a sudden it's this gothic chamber.
Yeah.
Or it's a woman going to bed in like it looks like an apartment, but it's in this facility apparently, and they have this whole setup trying to scare her. So you've got. Tardy, the slow-witted...
is his name really Tardy?
No. I don't remember what it is, but...
But that guy...
He's in two of them, yeah.
Yeah, which one? Is he in a later one?
The last one.
Or is he in the last one, too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's amazing to me because he's like Lugosi to me, where... I'll be watching it and go, this guy is so fucking bad, I can't believe it. And then the next scene I'll be like, oh, he's actually pretty good. Yeah. So I don't know. But he's like a dope. He's supposed to be retarded or whatever the word is.
Tardy, the assistant, and then Lil Strody, the midget, is
there's a
capering
lot of
around.
Little people in these films.
Yeah, and two of them. This one and the next, yeah. And they're capering around trying to scare this woman. And
so what happens is they send this woman into a state via some sort of nightmare visions that she sees while she's locked in this, like you say, chamber or whatever. And it'll go from being like this really fantastic nightmare world to Confuse a Cat from Monty Python.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, it's just the stupidest shit will suddenly
Yeah,
happen.
it's like it became like a really bad Monkeys episode or something.
It goes from like the height of, oh my God, this is insane.
Well,
and then all of a sudden, boop, 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 the guy will just appear over here. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
There's Karloff in a robe doing a satanic mass, and it looks great. And then there's
and the music and everything.
The music is goofy and
it's bizarre.
Like I said, it's like a bad Monkeys episode.
Well, it really reminded me of Confuse a Cat.
Yeah,
You've seen Confuse a Cat.
Yeah, it was
that's a sketch where they set the cat
and
the cat
jump
is
cuts.
Just a bunch of jump cuts where a guy will be standing on the left side of the screen
and
then he pops up and he's on the right side of the screen. It's just it's the height of special effects when you were 7 and you got your hands on an 8mm camera.
Yep.
You just stop filming and the camera stays there and you move the guy over. Or even better, you just cut out the middle part where he walks. It's just so bad. And so what we've established via this is, what happens then is she gets very scared. So they take out her spinal fluid because that's what feeds this living rock. It's funny because watching the movie, I had no idea about any of it. By the end, you kind of figure it out.
By the end, you sort of figured it out. And then I did go and
looked up on the internet.
To find what the hell did I just watch?
What was going on here? But here's the one thing that I think is definitively established in this opening bit. These are the bad guys. Boris Karloff and his compatriots are bad people.
Yeah.
They are fucking assholes, and they are torturing people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're capturing innocent young women for the purposes of torturing them for their own ends.
Yep.
And there's no other way of looking at it.
Right.
They're awful.
Yeah.
They're the bad guys. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, this rock thing promises them, I guess, I don't really remember this.
Yeah, it said it on the thing.
Yeah. Supposedly promises them all these great things, and you don't get that from watching it. So yeah, you're just watching it. Like,
I
these guys
rather
are
got the
dicks.
impression that people were hypnotized by it, by the rock creature.
Yeah, I think Tardy does. Certainly,
Yeah.
he talks to it, and
Yeah, that's right. He talks to it and stuff.
yeah,
But then he's an idiot. So
he's
it doesn't
a
really
moron.
matter.
And
But as you might imagine, that plot contrivance leading to women dancing around in their underthings is played up to great effect, because that's part of what they're actually doing. So
Yeah.
it's great.
yeah,
It's
it's germane to the plot.
It's germane.
It's not. It's not.
It even manages to be germane.
It's not even extraneous. It's
the Spanish word for germane. It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not an exploitative thing.
not at all. It's all
Yeah.
science.
This
is sound scientific principle.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So then, at some point, what is it that happens now? We probably should have taken notes, because
Yeah, I know.
Karloff gets zapped by something where he comes to his senses and finds out
He
he's
finally he's been in.
Or is
the
that
wrong-
even this one? Well, that's not even this one. I'm getting confused.
No, you're
again.
confused.
Yeah. He just realizes that's what it is.
Yeah,
He realizes how
this
it's gotten
is
out of
fucked up.
control.
Yeah, this is fucked
and
up.
so
well, because
then,
the first girl almost dies.
yeah,
The second one does, I believe.
okay,
I could be confusing things, but not any more so than the filmmakers did. So then, he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a mess."
yeah. We have to. Oh, I know what it is. This thing's going to take over the world.
Yes.
So we
that's
need
right.
to kill it.
Yes.
So they have to work together to destroy it, and
but-
that's
but-
clumsy too.
But Tardy is in the thralls of the rocks.
Yeah, so they have to.
So they got to get rid of him, and the midget dies at some point for some reason. Little Scrody bites it somehow. I don't even
The
remember.
most offensive episode of Frankenstein Minute to date. What I love is that this movie that
Okay, the little person.
yes,
is that better?
I think so. I don't know. I think it is. This movie that firmly establishes this group of people in a shady endeavor are the bad guys. Absolutely are redeemed at the end, or not redeemed. They're not in any way redeemed.
No.
But we are meant to be happy when they succeed in destroying this creature.
This rock,
and
yeah.
that's the end. The words like "the end" come up because we're so happy that they
Yay!
win.
They saved the world.
The bad guys win.
Basically.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yes,
I do
actually.
actually. What's her name? Hulisa.
Hulisa.
Falls in love with one of the other characters, and they're going to get married, right? Is that her fiance all of a sudden?
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't be happier.
Karloff
Yeah,
couldn't be
it was when
happier
he's in
about
bed on the phone with him.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
like
great.
as the movie goes on, you're like, well, this is really an interesting little portrait of these bad people and their personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
But no, in the end, we're just supposed to think they were the good guys.
Yeah.
That's the
takeaway from
that you took from it too. Were you surprised by that? That it's like, well, wait a minute, you guys are the bad guys.
You get away scot-free
Shouldn't
for
you
doing
die?
You murdered, kidnapped, murdered,
The code, whatever that code was,
that's
the
long.
Hollywood code, has
Production
been
code is
completely
long
production
destroyed.
code. Yeah.
This was the best looking,
Okay.
I think,
Of
of
best
the
copy?
four. Well, not
Or the
only
movie?
that, but just the sets were clearly built with a design in mind.
Yeah.
Even the computer rooms, which always looked phony and everything,
yeah.
at least had that aesthetic.
Yeah.
They were credible enough for the purposes of the film.
Yeah.
And like I say, it looked like a 60s, like a Matt Helm movie or something.
To me, it looked like a Doctor Who episode, but yeah.
Okay.
Matt Helm is actually a really good one too. Yeah, same
Yeah.
kind of deal.
That aesthetic.
They could cut these into a Austin Powers movie, and it would
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a point, I don't know, 3/4 of the way in, where Boris Karloff's daughter's boyfriend comes in, and Karloff orders him to do something that's absurdly technical, and not something you would ask anyone to do, but it actually makes sense in the plot because he used to work there, or does still work there.
He works there.
And he's able to just take over and do something so Karloff could do something else. And I was like, well, that actually made sense. Like, so many things don't make sense in these movies. I was like, well, that actually made sense. He would know how to do that. I don't remember what it was, but he runs the big computer or whatever.
I think he works there throughout, doesn't he?
He probably does, but I think they went on vacation, so I got confused. Maybe.
Well, they're on their honeymoon.
Were they on their
I don't know.
Did they get married?
I don't remember. I don't know. It's muddled.
It's muddled.
But
I think
that's the worst thing I think you can say about them all.
They're all muddled.
They're muddled.
Yeah.
They're not the most cohesive.
Yeah.
Logically or in plot structure.
Right.
They're not as jarring in terms of photography and editing as you would expect.
Right, as a truly bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it is bad, and like you say, often too dark to be able to see what's going on.
Well, this one I didn't think.
This one wasn't so bad. Yeah, this one.
This one is just
probably the most coherent in that sense. Although I couldn't say I know exactly.
Visually, yes.
Yeah.
It's the most cohesive visually, other than the shots of the rock.
Yeah.
It seems like the most. Oh, this is what we planned to make.
Yeah. Yes.
Other than the rock things, the others.
I like that actually. I think that is what's happening.
You know, House of Evil. It's
you're right about the rock thing, though.
Yeah, that really just.
Yeah, we could probably whip something up by this afternoon. That would look better.
I probably got something in my basement right now that looks better. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to move on to Isle of the Snake People.
Probably. Let me just make sure I don't have anything else. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Which
it was released on DVD in 2001.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, you have that?
Well, I got it at Half Price Books, like I said.
That's that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Good, because it's one of the good ones.
I think this was one of the best.
It might be the best.
If I have to pick, and best is quantitative here.
Yeah.
It's by no means good, but it's the best of these four, I felt.
Well, let's at least say this. We can agree it's better than House of Evil. And that's where we're at now. On to the next one. See if maybe the next one will be even better.
Well, you don't want to talk about Isle of the Snake People?
I do. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. On to this one. Okay.
On to
I thought you meant let's skip to the.
No, let's go home. Let's fucking
we're
call it off.
Wrap this up right now.
If in case, where are we at? Time.
Oh, Jesus. 56.
All right. Well, then join us next week for
the
Isle of the Snake People and the other one. Follow us on. Oh, it's a bonus episode.
It's a bonus episode, so don't do anything.